Good, af- Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's corporate pitch event focusing on innovation in healthcare. My name is Kelly, and I'm from the investments team at SGInnovate. Today, we are excited to have 8 startups sharing with you. They're providing innovative solutions in the areas of remote monitoring and care delivery, early detection, chronic disease management, and optimization of workflow. Before we begin, let me welcome the CEO of SGInnovate, Dr. Lim Dwi, to give us his welcome remarks. Dr. Lim, please.
Thanks, Kelly, and a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Dwi. Once again, I'm the CEO of SGInnovate. For those of you who are new to us, we are a deep tech venture, talent, and ecosystem builder backed by the Singapore government. That's a bit of a mouthful. We try to address issues within the deep tech ecosystem in a holistic way. Ultimately, our mission is to help entrepreneurial scientists discover and launch deep tech solutions that have impact globally from Singapore. As an early stage investor, we primarily look at funding emerging technologies that are rooted in recent research, requiring specific capabilities and a high degree of specialization. Many of these solutions hold tremendous potential to solve challenging issues and improve lives, environments, and economies in many areas, from food to the environment to healthcare. And to support this growing ecosystem, we've built a community of close to 70,000 founders, researchers, corporations, and individuals within our international network. Together, we share ideas, host events, and create opportunities for collaboration. Finally, our work sees us tapping on these connections and resources to build and groom deep tech talent to help our startups and the broader ecosystem to scale and expand. We do this through programs aimed at developing talent across many levels, across a wide range of sectors. Today, we're looking at a topic that's near and dear to me, having started my own career in the medical profession. It's also a field that has captured global attention in the wake of the pandemic. Investor interest in healthcare innovation has never been higher. Investments in technologies like artificial intelligence and telehealth hit record highs globally in the first quarter of 2021. No doubt in response to the need to digitalize and automate healthcare processes. And those of you who invested in Moderna, Pfizer, and Novavax would have made off handsomely. So this tide has lifted all of healthcare. Seeing strong demand for telemedicine services in our own region, we too invested in this area, recognizing the high potential of such companies as the team from Whitecoat, a recent addition to our portfolio, and which is represented here in today's session. In 2020 alone, Whitecoat saw a 7-fold increase in consultation figures and worked with the insurance company AIA to provide 50,000 video consultations for its policyholders in response to COVID-19. Fueled by this momentum, it wasn't surprising that their Series A round was also oversubscribed and the largest by a Singapore-based telemedicine company to date. I'm proud of what our portfolio companies in the healthcare space have achieved in the past year. The Safer Sample Kit by Lucenz and iThermal by Chronicare are just two examples of the many innovative solutions that have been developed to keep communities safer as daily routines resume. Other companies like Curative and Us2AI are using artificial intelligence and connected digital platforms to extend the capabilities of an already overstretched healthcare system. But even in the absence of the pandemic, there had been growing concern over the sustainability of healthcare expenditure. In Singapore, healthcare expenditure is expected to almost triple from 18 billion in 2018 to 59 billion in 2030, according to a recent statement by our Minister of Health, Mr. Ong Ye Kung, who expressed his concern over this exponential rise. Globally, healthcare expenditure in the so-called developed world is now in double digits, ranging from 10% to a high of 17% in the United States. Once again, these were pre-COVID numbers and projections, driven principally by lifestyle, environmental, and demographic trends, such as aging. With COVID-19 and the likelihood of future pandemics, healthcare expenditure will be even higher. The move to prevention from treatment and the ability to decentralize and democratize healthcare within reasonable and safe limits to take the load off institutional healthcare are key to any strategy to contain healthcare expenditure. Digitalization is a key enabler of this approach, exemplified by most of the startups here today, but it is not by any means the only one. As our healthcare ecosystems continue to evolve, we will be exploring opportunities to support and invest in companies that play in the biopharma and biomedical technology spaces, helping innovators discover the next mRNA vaccine, for example. The companies we've brought together today will be discussing their solutions to address healthcare challenges, both perennial and emerging, from remote monitoring to early detection and chronic disease management. All of them have the potential to not only change the way our communities are cared for, but also transform the way our healthcare professionals work as well. So I thank all of you for joining us today, especially the many representatives from various healthcare institutions, corporations, and corporate venture capitalists for taking the time to meet our startups. We will be very happy to connect you with them and see how their work could potentially address some of the innovation challenges within your own organizations. We at SGInnovate believe that startups and corporates make for natural bedfellows. By drawing on the strengths from both sides, together we can design faster, build better, and most importantly, make a greater difference in the long run. So without further ado, it is with great pleasure that I hand you over now to the stars of the show today, our founders. Kelly, all yours.
Thanks, Dr. Lim. Yeah, so for the startup pitch section, each startup will have 5 minutes to pitch. If you're interested to connect with the startup, please indicate your interest via the poll that will be launched. So now I hand the time over to my colleague Zhang Xing, who will take you through the pitches.
Thank you, Kelly. So first up for today, we'll have Clara from Whitecode to present. So Clara, over to you now.
Thank you, Zhang Xing. 1 second as I pull my slides to the screen. Hi, I am Clara, COO of Whitecode, and I am going to be talking to you about Whitecode. We are a digital healthcare provider on a mission to transform the way people access and receive healthcare. Everyone has a healthcare experience, but what if I told you your healthcare experience with Whitecode today can just be 12 minutes short? With a smartphone, you are able to access Whitecode from wherever you are, instantly connecting to a doctor for a medical video consultation. From primary and specialist care to allied healthcare needs, you name it, we got it, or are working very hard to bring it to you. 2, if medication is required, we can arrange for doorstep delivery as quickly as within 19 minutes. You may then ask, what about preventive health? Or what happens if I need certain medical services such as a blood test or vaccinations? We now provide home-based general and chronic screening, as well as physical consultations, which we see as complementary services to our core virtual offering. Last, we designed Whitecode to take care of claims processing across online and in-clinic healthcare networks so that healthcare can be fuss-free the way it should be. Now, let me talk a little bit about what sets us apart. 1, regulatory approval. We were selected as the first participant in Ministry of Health's regulatory telemedicine sandbox back in 2018, the first in Southeast Asia. 2, insurer and institutional endorsement. We were chosen by AIA, the largest pan-Asian life insurance group, as its official telehealth provider, and are presently backed by institutional investors such as SGInnovate and Korea Investment Partners. Last, our product is the backbone of the execution of our core mission. We zero in on product innovation with the goal of creating an unparalleled customer experience to drive better medical outcomes. With that, we believe we are the region's best B2B digital healthcare provider. The ongoing pandemic has no doubt been a catalyst for the accelerated adoption of digital healthcare services such as telemedicine. If we look at the telemedicine landscape today, it has really evolved and transitioned to a mainstream medical service, serving as the first touch point of medical advice and care. The statistics on this slide validate our story. Over 2,000 partner organizations, 1.8 million lives, 7 times the number of consultations last year as compared to the year before, and 8 times revenue looking at the same period. Through our solutions infrastructure, we intend to hit our next milestone, connecting key stakeholders with the healthcare ecosystem. If I could guide you to the left side of the slide, the White Coat app caters to the retail public, insured members, and corporate employees. Next, our EMR provides the basis to which our in-house medical team and partner professionals connect with our patients. In the middle, the extended healthcare network and management and claims systems cover healthcare groups comprising GPs, specialists, allied healthcare professionals, lab and radio partners, and insurer networks. Last, but definitely not the least, our medication inventory and fulfillment modules allow us to work with our central dispensary as well as pharmaceutical partners to recognize prescriptions and dispense medications to all our patients. At White Coat, we are spearheaded by a seasoned management team, but most of all, anchored with the same vision of making healthcare the 4 A's: accessible and affordable, anytime and anywhere. We are currently keen on exploring how we can engage with wearable and medical devices companies, regional pharmaceutical and lab companies, as well as regional healthcare providers to enhance and expand our service offering. So if you share White Coat's vision and are excited about transforming healthcare, I would love to connect with you after this event. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thank you, Clara, so much for your pitch. We will now start the poll to indicate your interest to connect with White Coat. Kindly indicate your interest in the poll if you'd like to connect with White Coat now. Right. Next up, we will have Philip from Web Biotech. He'll be presenting on behalf of Web Biotech. So over to you now, Philip.
Thanks very much, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Philip Wong. I am a cardiologist by training, founder and CEO of Web Biotechnology. Web Biotechnology is a company that is headquartered in Singapore and is the manufacturer of the Spyder ECG system. This system is indeed a unique system. It's the only system in the world that is able to provide continuous data transmission from anywhere.
Sorry, Philip. We cannot see your slides. Could you check on your slides?
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, we got it.
You can see the slides now?
Yeah, you may proceed, Philip. Thank you.
Okay, I apologize for that. So just to go back, we are headquartered in Singapore and the manufacturer of the Spyder ECG transmission system. This is indeed a very unique system. It's a system that allows continuous ECG delivery as well as remote monitoring using current available wireless mobile solutions. It is the world's first ambulatory continuous transmission system with a direct patient to database capabilities. This, of course, allows real-time ambulatory remote monitoring across large geographical distances and data accessibility that is available to the physician anytime, anywhere in the world. The system is extremely easy to use. It can be self-administered, and of course, in this current pandemic, is contact-free because it can be given out to patients without visits to the hospital. It is a zero footprint system, meaning that no hardware is required by anyone using it, and extends significantly the ECG data acquisition beyond any hospitalization scenario. We started off, of course, trying to replace the picture on the left, which is a traditional wired ECG monitor called a Holter ECG. People who wear it feel extremely uncomfortable, and in some cases, patients complain that they look like a suicide bomber. And we have actually transform the entire system into a fully wireless digital system, as seen on the right side. The Spyder system is comprises of three individual components that are seamlessly integrated into one complete system or vertical silo, as you may call it. Firstly, the wearable itself, which is lightweight, self-administered. Secondly, we have a mobile app that embeds into any Android-based smartphone and enables the phone to be a full ECG display, create an interactive timestamp of events, as well as provide either a continuous or event-based transmission of data to our cloud database. Our cloud database is also known as Dr. Spyder, and in the next slide, I'll give you an image of what it is. It's a system of servers that provides data storage as well as a web-based dashboard with algorithm-driven review and reporting platform for patients. We are, of course, CE marked and MDD certified since last year till 2025 for use in the EU. We are also HSA approved since 2014. This is an image of the backend or the brains of the Spyder system. It's a federated system of servers that allows extreme flexibility in deployment. We can control points of access for security. We also have an anonymized server that allows for personal data protection. This is because we also provide a service of reading the ECG reports through a core lab. And this core lab, of course, is reading data that is completely unknown in terms of the patient's identity and so on. Now, the database can also be flexibly ring-fenced and isolated from each other so that users have no possibility of accessing anyone else's database. Fully customizable for different users, especially for those in different geographical locations. The current system is algorithm-driven, or in a sense, augmented algorithms, because we do use human interventions to report the data, but is fully is fully able to receive potential AI software in the future, and this is one of the collaborations we are looking for. And of course, it's hosted in the server that allows the power of the CPU in the server to operate the AI software. Now, in terms of the patient's and the physician's view, so this is a patient, a so-called patient using the Spyder system. Obviously, you can't see the system at all, and all you see is the individual's ECG being displayed on the phone. And the data, of course, is being transmitted from the phone to the cloud database. Now, a physician who can log in from miles away, even in another country, will then have access immediately to the ECG that is incoming on the screen on the right. And of course, the algorithm-driven system allows detection of abnormal rhythms. For example, you see the rhythm in red. It's a very frightening rhythm called atrial fibrillation and has been detected in this patient. And of course, we can alert immediately the physician, and the physician can alert the patient and so on. Now, because the system is based on the cloud and is accessible anywhere, this system is really scalable globally and across multiple time zones. Now, timing in issues of the heart is very critical because immediately if you have some arrhythmia, you must inform the patient immediately of this issue and so on. So why is this system interesting? Because we use the time zones of the phone that is with the patient. And this allows us to rationalize time across all the time zones of the world. So no matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to understand the situation of the patient somewhere else in another time zone. Now, in terms of clinical users as well, this system is very robust. We have tested it in many patients in terms of traditional diagnostic extended Holter monitoring, which is used routinely in hospitals. But the same system can be used for other clinical implications. And one area which we are very keen to explore now is that in the home monitoring. So this has been used with our system in very early phase monitoring of patients post-discharge, for example, after surgery, as well as for monitoring of patients undergoing home rehab or physiotherapy. Another area which is interesting as well is also in the personal monitoring space. In this case, because we can convert the mobile application on the phone, a person wearing the Spyder system can send events to his or her own self through an email, and of course record individual events or symptoms that may be affecting the rhythm of the heart. They can then go on to send this ECG to a physician of choice for recommendation or for treatment or management. So what is our innovation? Basically, we are interesting because we are bridging a very important gap between home-based, hospital-based diagnostic Holter monitoring and home or ambulatory home monitoring. The system is fully digital and is usable globally. It's a zero footprint system. There's no capital investment in any brick and mortar infrastructure required to use the system. It can be administered contact-free outside the hospital or healthcare facility, which is very useful, of course, in this current pandemic. The system backend, Dr. Spyder, is extremely flexible and customizable, very highly scalable system. And of course, the large data sets that are accumulated at the back end, because they are all in a single place, it's much easier for us to do analytics on these data sets. The model that we employ as well is what we call a full physician engagement model. There is full disclosure of all ECG data to the physician for better management, analysis and reporting of the individual's ECG abnormalities. Lastly, our traction, we are clinically proven. We have more than 17,000 patient sessions with a mean duration of 3 days, and that is roughly equivalent to 200,000 heartbeats per session. We have a very significant installed base in Singapore, which includes the public hospitals. So the public hospitals are a little bit more challenging because they have very strict PDPA requirements, but we have managed to install our system in many of the public hospitals in Singapore. We have also completed major trials, such as the SAFS trial of more than 300 patients in the National Heart Centre of Singapore, and there are ongoing trials now, as well in other public hospitals in Singapore. The product is registered for use besides Singapore, in Hong Kong, Taiwan, many countries in Asia, and of course in the EU as well. So in closing, we are very keen for partnership and collaborations with the following groups of people who are interested in this area. Firstly, in the area of clinical trials with medtech companies who do cardiac rhythm management, with pharma who are testing drugs in cardiac rhythm issues as well. And of course, one advantage of our system is that the monitoring can be continued both in the hospital as well as in the ambulatory and home setting. We have also started some collaboration with AI companies in the use of AI for our system. What is interesting is that our system is recording continuous data sets. So for example, if you record a baseline data set of 30 minutes, this can be used as the base for use of any clinical AI algorithms that can be imparted on this base reference and used to detect any trends. For example, for prediction of atrial fibrillation or another condition called sudden cardiac death. We're also keen for collaborations in data sharing with other vertical silos or databases in the CV space. And lastly, one area we are keen to enter into as well is in the management and monitoring of patients in the elder care setting. So thank you for this time, and if there's any interest, please do feel free to contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip, so much for your presentation. We'll start a poll for interest to connect with Web Biotech now. Kindly indicate your interest at the moment. Meanwhile, we'll have Dr. Charit from Tricorp to do a setup first. When you are ready, I think you can proceed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. In my 15 years as a cardiologist, the one fact that has continued to worry me is this. Each year, 20 million people would have lost their lives due to this one disease, cardiovascular disease, the world's #1 killer. It has just gotten worse with COVID. But I want you to know this, that 50% of these lives lost can be saved if only they were diagnosed quickly. So how can we scale diagnosis? How can we put a cardiologist in every corner of the world? How can we put a cardiologist accessible to your home when you need it? Tricorp was founded in Singapore, and since 2014, we have now the world's largest AI-powered network for cardiac diagnosis. And what is it that we do? As Dr. Lim so beautifully described the need of the hour in his introductory remarks, that the best of diagnosis that is available in tertiary care, we've brought that to the community level, to clinics, hospitals, nursing homes, right near where you live. And we're taking that one step further. The same algorithms that were powering this diagnosis is now going to be used for diagnosis at home. And this is a huge market. We have to be relevant throughout the patient's journey, from analyzing and interpreting data from devices such as which are in the consumer health business, to the time where from health to disease junction, where screening happens with an ECG or a cardiac ultrasound called an echo. And the same tools are being used at hospitals and clinics to diagnose diseases. And finally, when you get discharged and you're at home, you want to make sure that the patient does not get readmitted. So ensuring that you're relevant throughout the patient's journey is a very important principle for us. And how is this achieved? As data comes in from these multiple devices, the AI first produces an output, which is then working very closely with our core labs. And we have 3 of these core labs set up in India, in the Philippines, and now in China. The doctors work alongside with the algorithms to produce an output within 6 minutes. So within 6 minutes, anywhere in the world, you can diagnose somebody with heart disease. Now, the core of this that enables us to scale and ensure accuracy is the fact that this AI is learning continuously. Each time the doctor verifies the diagnosis or makes a change, the AI gets better and better. And that is based on 3 very important principles. First is that you want to enable existing doctors to be able to treat people better. We can't replace doctors, but we can definitely reduce their workload. The second is that the AI is designed and built on real world patient data. And the third is that this entire process happens in real time, from data coming in to annotation to diagnosis and learning. Now, we've started with ECG, and now from right in the middle of the pandemic, we introduced remote echo diagnosis, where data comes in from both traditional devices and, of course, most excited, point of care ultrasound devices, which are not just going to replace the stethoscope, but are going to democratize cardiac diagnosis. And we built an entire suite of AI tools that enable this diagnosis to happen anywhere. Acquisition can happen remotely, and you centralize the expertise using Tricorp's AI and platform. We're headquartered in Singapore. We operate from our subsidiaries in Philippines, Malaysia, Kenya, India, and China, and working very closely with our partners. For instance, with AstraZeneca, we've launched across in Latin America for diagnosing not just cardiovascular disease, but also focused on heart failure. We have close to 6 million patients since our inception have been treated by the Tricorp platform, and close to 9,000 clinics, hospitals in our network. We are on a good path to 150 million by 2025. And I want to close with this last one slide, is that today we can diagnose heart disease with 100% accuracy. But what we want to do is to enable this for you and your family, to be able to predict before an event happens. Thank you very much for your time. We are here to democratize cardiology. We're here to enable access to cardiology at scale. And I'd be happy to speak with any of you who share the same vision. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Charit, for your presentation. We'll start a poll for Tricorp. Kindly indicate your interest to connect with Tricorp if you'd like to. Next up, we will have Dr. Tan Min Han from Lucenz. Kindly get ready. Okay, all right, Min Han, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jiang Xing. Hi, everyone. Lucenz is a company focused on detecting cancer earlier with the use of ultra-sensitive liquid biopsy. And as introduction, I am a medical oncologist by training and a clinical cancer geneticist. I've worked in the lab for over 17 years, and I've seen patients for concurrently for just slightly over 20 years. And together with me, my co-founders, Yukti Chaudhary, who works on the technology side, and Jack Chalice, who is the Vice President of US Operations. And Lucenz is a company that fights cancer through the delivery of cancer diagnostic and cancer screening services worldwide through our medical laboratories in California, Singapore, and upcoming Suzhou. Today, we still deliver the first and only liquid biopsy test in the world that comprehensively covers both cancer-driving mutations and cancer-causing viruses. We do work very closely with partners both in the United States and in Asia for research and technology, and these include Dana-Farber, UCSF, Kaiser Permanente, Stanford. In Asia, we do work with Waseda, and of course in Singapore with the National Cancer Center and A-Star, where Lucenz was a spin-off. The challenge, I think, is obvious to all of us. There are 10 million new cancer patients every year worldwide and 5 million cancer deaths. And that's essentially 50% of all patients are diagnosed in late stage. Annually, in direct cancer care, $200 billion is being spent for the direct care of cancer patients. And the goal of Lucenz has always been to reduce the world's burden of suffering by sensitive and early cancer detection when actions can be undertaken. And here we use our proprietary technology, Amplimark, which has ultra-sensitive sequencing and an AI platform that powers our liquid biopsy tests. These apply throughout both early stage in the screening setting and the late stage, where the use of such technology is used for treatment selection. And today, since our founding in 2017, we are trusted to care for thousands of cancer patients across Asia. And we are trusted because our liquid biopsy technology has been demonstrated to show 41.6 more cancer patients detected over the 0.5% commonly reported limit for cancer detection testing. And this was a study done with the University of Hong Kong as well as in Singapore. And this was reported last year at ASCO. And this is important because this means that for patients with this mutation, we are able to offer the treatments and the appropriate actions that can improve the outcomes. I will say that as we stand today as one of the most trusted precision medicine companies for patients and by their oncologists, we look towards our growth worldwide, and Liquid 01 is a non-inferiority trial for 200 late-stage lung cancer patients. This is already recruiting in the United States, where we expect to be working closely with payers to deliver the best possible care for their patients. I will round up by saying that much of our work in ultrasensitive diagnostics for sure is meant to spare patients the suffering of invasive procedures to make the right decisions for late stage. We work very closely with our technology partners and towards the day where cancer can be detected early for everyone, everywhere. And we have a strong technology team that we are assembling and planning that deployment. And towards this, I really want to thank our investors who have supported us through this journey towards a world without avoidable cancer deaths. And that would include SGInnovate, IHH Healthcare, one of the world's largest private healthcare networks, as well as Heliconia Capital. So thank you, everyone. We specialize in swift, simple, sensitive patients for testing for cancer patients and who really value time and quality. And I think I certainly would be hoping for closer collaboration to deliver quicker care, more effective cancer care for your patients. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Min Han, for your presentation. Kindly indicate in the poll if you would like to connect with Min Han and Lucenz. Next up, we will have Milad from Cmode. So Milad, please stand by for your pitch.
So hi, everyone. My name is Milad. I'm one of the co-founders of Cmode. We are a medical technology startup based here in Melbourne, Australia. We started in Singapore about 3 years ago together with my co-founder Sadaf, and we're both coming from biomedical engineering backgrounds. Both did PhDs, worked on various medical problems. And since starting 3 years ago, we've been very lucky to work with a lot of different clinicians coming from various backgrounds, both here in Australia as well as in Singapore and many other countries around the world. So today I just wanted to give you a little bit of context around the problems that we're solving at Cmode and some of the solutions that we're building and how they look like. And I would love to talk further if you're interested. So I guess let me just start with a very brief description of the problem. And lots of people before me very eloquently spoke about the problem of cardiovascular diseases. So I won't unpack that. I would just emphasize that unfortunately they are the biggest killer in the world, and their subtypes, for example, stroke would be one of the biggest killers in the world, depending on the country that we're looking at, in the top 3 usually. And unfortunately, a lot of strokes are recurrent. So we have a lot of patients who come in with a recurrent stroke, and they are in a higher risk of having bad outcomes and higher risk of death and disability. The good news there is that we can do something about that. Stroke is managed based on a lot of medical imaging. So CT scans are typically the first line of defense for stroke patients. And then MRI and ultrasound imaging is prevalently used as well. But unfortunately, the focus of the analysis of those imaging is based on the degree of narrowing in blood vessels. So the clinicians would be measuring the degree of narrowing. If it's, for example, more than 70% narrowed, the patient would receive surgery. And if it's less than that, aggressive medication. We know now, based on clinical evidence over the past 10 years or so, that there are better risk factors to predict and prevent a stroke. And that's exactly the type of problem that we're solving. So we are looking at first optimizing the clinical workflow that is used in clinics around the world, trying to save some time from clinicians that are analyzing and reporting medical scans. So that's all about optimization of workflow. And then we are moving beyond that and looking at prediction and prevention of a stroke by detecting risk factors such as high-risk plaques or high-risk blood flow. That would then help a clinician, for example, an interventional neurologist or a cardiovascular surgeon, to be able to decide whether their patient would benefit from surgery versus aggressive medication, for example. So let me unpack that in a little bit more detail and relate that problem to the product roadmap that we are building. So our first product is called Ava. And all of our products, by the way, are software only. So we are vendor agnostic, analyzing multiple modalities of imaging coming from all sorts of device vendors around the world. Our first product, Ava, it's all about vascular ultrasound imaging. And it's about making the job of sonographers and reporting physicians easier. It's a regulatory approved product that has been approved in 4 major markets: FDA in the US, CE mark across Europe, HSA in Singapore, and TGA here in Australia. And the product is commercially launched and in clinical use in multiple centers. So what Ava does is that it sort of replaces the current pen and paper methodology of reporting on ultrasound scans with automated analysis of medical imaging based on AI. And then we produce a report for the physician that then they would amend as needed. So that saves time and increases revenue for the practice. And our future products, I'll just touch on them very briefly. Plaque composition analysis is one of the products that we're working on as an add-on to Ava and an upsell for customers that we're working on. And what we've done is that we've done proof of concept studies with multiple hospitals around the world. We started with NUH in Singapore and showed that we can detect high-risk plaques with about 90% accuracy compared against very expensive, highly niche and research-based modalities of MRI, for example, high-resolution MRI imaging. So of course, that's bringing down the value of an MRI machine into an ultrasound scan that's done routinely and cheaply. And a very similar concept around our third product that we're currently working on at Cmode, which is flow analysis. So we detect high-risk blood flow in patients based on a routine CT or MR, and then validate that against against phase contrast MRI, which is again research-based and highly unavailable in many clinical settings. So that's all about it, about who we are at Cmode. I hope that the problem of a stroke and predicting and prevention of a stroke is as important for you as it is for us. And I would love to have a chat if you're keen. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Milad, for your presentation. We'll start the poll for you to indicate your interest to connect with Cmode now. Next up, we will have Dr. Hussain from Chronic Care. Dr. Hussain, please stand by. All right, Dr. Hussain, the floor is yours.
So my name is Hussain Kaki. I'm a director of Chronic Care. So Chronic Care are using AI to address the problem of chronic wounds. Globally, there are more than 5 million amputations, including about 1 every 30 seconds due to a chronic wound. And this is rising because of demographic features like diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease, as we heard. The current way in which chronic wounds are managed is very manual, it's highly subjective, and it's not scalable. So here you see a nurse who's literally using something like a toothpick to probe the depth of the wound, and it's her subjective assessment as to whether the wound is infected. And this creates a whole host of problems, including workforce planning, managing wounds, and this can be a bigger problem than cancer in terms of budget spend, including here in Europe. So our solution uses an on-device smartphone technology, but coupled with twin AI engines and a database trained on more than 1 million wound samples to be able to automate the complete wound assessment. And this allows us to complete a complete subjective process into a more objective process. So we do the whole 3D measurement of the wound, can classify the wound according to all tissue types, and that's regardless of a person's skin tone, as well as the novel detection of complications such as infection, inflammation, and undermining, which we know to be markers of poor healing. And we pitch this as a kind of first response triage tool to be used by more junior professionals so that you can upskill more junior clinicians to be able to perform these tasks, and then case find and case match people who don't necessarily need to be seen in hospital settings. So you're delivering care outside of costly hospital settings. Because we're using twin AI technology, we can also now make very accurate predictions on healing based on particular wound dressings, for example, wound sizes, and make accurate suggestions of a person's treatment. So in doing so, you have a process that goes, like I said, from being subjective to consistent, and it's highly scalable. Our user interface is very intuitive and meets all the ISO standards for ergonomy, And this just gives you an idea of what the dashboard looks like. So we're able to detect, like I say, all these novel complications and compare to a manual standard as well. So our traction to date really has been that we have signed OEM agreements with large wound care companies in Europe. We are also exploring large corporate tie-ups in the US and have signed an agreement in Brazil as well. What we're looking for are three things. So I'll just go to my last slide. So we're looking for development in three areas. The first is some joint IP development for pressure sore detection. Our technology and the patent covers the ability to detect pressure sores at an earlier stage before they're clinically apparent. And we know this to be a big issue, even medico-legally, especially in North America. And so the use case is patients at every entry point, either into hospitals, care homes, would be scanned at all their pressure points. With our technology, we also have the ability to detect nasogastric tube placements, and the malplacement of nasogastric tubes also carries significant malpractice connotations. For our next funding round, so like I said, we have got distribution agreements with several countries, and we are expanding into about 9 territories. We've cleared regulatory approval in all of these areas. So we have got a CE mark under the MDD. The MDR version is expected in the next 1 month. We are HSA Class B accredited. We have ISO 13485. We have gone through an FDA 510K route. But we're now looking for more strategic collaborations in the US and the USA, as well as to join our next funding round, which will be participated with investors from the previous round who will follow on. And the only final thing I wanted to say is that what we're trying to develop is a chronic care solution that cuts across multiple care settings, from hospitals to care homes and nursing homes, to be able to deliver low-cost care outside of expensive hospital settings. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hussain, for your kind presentation. We will start the poll now to indicate your interest to connect with Chronic Care and Dr. Hussain. So we have come to the end of our corporate pitch. I'll hand over the time to Kelly.
Thanks,
Kelly, over to you.
Yeah, so we hope this has been an insightful session for you. Thanks everyone for joining us and staying to the end. We look forward to seeing you again and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.